Hey everybody, Audiophile Barista here. So, last week I showed you my latest upgrade. It is the LUMIN A1 Streamer deck. It is in my system now for 1 week, so let's talk about it. First, let's get rid of the obvious. Do I like it? Oh yeah, I do. But why do I like it? Well, let me tell you. First off, I needed to decide, am I going to use it as a streamer only with the Denafrips as an external deck, or as all the reviews are raving about the internal deck, or am I going to connect it directly to the ear preamp? And that's what I did. I started with connecting the A1 directly to the preamp using the XLR out connections, and the first impression was actually a bit disappointing. It was flat, it was uninspiring, I did not like it. Surely this is not what the reviewers were talking about. Did I make a mistake in buying this A1? Did I pay $2,000 for a disappointment? But this was just first impressions, and as an experienced audiophile I know sometimes some equipment will need some warm-up time, so I stopped listening and I tried again the next day. Now the next day was completely different. There it was. Now I understood what the reviewers were talking about. This was so much better. What do I mean by that? Well, imagine being at work in an air-conditioned room, and at the end of the day you turn off the AC and suddenly it becomes so quiet in the room. Do you recognize this? Suddenly you realize how irritating the A sound actually was all day. You did not really notice it during the day, but the moment you turned it off you immediately felt this moment of relaxation. Now if you recognize what I'm talking about, then you understand what the A1 is doing to digital sound. In many systems you also get that same sensation when you go from digital playback to vinyl playback. The vinyl playback is so much more relaxing because it does away with the nervousness, I'm just looking for words here, the nervousness of digital. Doesn't mean it's better, it means it's much more relaxing. And there's something else that I need to say about that. You see, the current trend in audio reproduction, in speakers, DA converters, amplifiers, is to go hyper-realistic and transparent. Now this makes for a great first impression, as you can hear everything in the soundstage and everything is as sharp as can be, but in many cases it's not very relaxing. So at first, because I did also listen to the Denafrips on the A1, but at first when I changed back from the Denafrips to the A1, I thought, oh wow, this is not very transparent, almost like it had rolled off highs or maybe be a bit diffuse. But then when you listen a bit longer to the Lumin, you start to get it. You do not get this hyper-realistic image of the singer or trumpet player. No, you get a much more true-to-life, realistic picture of the singer or the trumpet player. The drum kit is not just a super sharp picture of a drum kit anymore, it is now an actual drum kit. And here's another thing that happened that demonstrates how good the A1 is. Normally when I'm scouting for new music, I go onto Tidal and I just hunt for new music. This means that I'm listening to tracks for maybe 30 seconds, but I noticed that with the A1 I listen to every track much longer because it's such a joy to listen to this machine. But enough about the sound. What else makes this a great piece of gear? Well, one of the things that I like is that it plays DSD. Now my DSD collection is not very big, but I have one album that is already in my collection for maybe 10 years, and always it was a hassle to play it. You put it on a USB drive, maybe put it in the Oppo Blu-ray player, and then I was able to maybe play DSD. But this machine just plays DSD. It just does. The A1 also does full MQA decoding. Now I know MQA is slowly dying, but Tidal still has a lot of MQA tracks in their collection. And now when I play them, I can for the first time actually hear a big difference between the MQA tracks and the normal tracks on Tidal. And what I hear again is it adds more of that analog realism that I just talked about. Now the interesting thing is that when the A1 originally came out, about 2014, it had no possibility to play MQA. I don't remember when MQA came onto market, but it did not have the possibility to play MQA. And now it can do a full decoding of the MQA files because of software updates. Because another thing that I like very much about Lumin is that they keep all their equipment up to date. So for this A1 that came out almost 10 years ago, the latest update was just 2 months ago. So I'm very confident that whenever MQA goes away and it gets a follow-up in some other new format, I'm confident that Lumin will make sure that I can play it on my system. The A1 also has its own USB server built in. So just plug in your SSD and it will play all your music from your USB drive. And then there is a thing that I also really like very much, and that is the amount of control that the app gives you. Now, in all the reviews that I read, they were very positive about the app itself. I think I still like the Bluesound app maybe a bit better. But the best thing is, in this app you can turn on and off almost every setting in the system. Now, the aim of Lumin is to make the electronic environment as clean as possible, the least amount of distortion. So everything that can have an effect on extra noise into the system, you can turn it off. So that's why they also have an external power supply to keep it as far away as possible from the internals of the streamer and the DA converter. And that is also why they have no Wi-Fi module in here. You cannot play this on Wi-Fi. You need to connect it to an Ethernet cable. I like that. I think that should always be the case. Or at least if you have a Wi-Fi module in there, you would be able to turn it off completely. And there's no Bluetooth. Now there is Apple AirPlay, but you can turn it off in the app. I love that. And if you are not using digital outputs, like I am at the moment, you can turn them off in the app. You can also turn off the display. So all this is done to reduce the amount of noise inside the streamer, and I love it. Now add to that the fully balanced build connected via XLR, and you are putting the best signal possible into your preamp. Oh, and I almost forgot, you can also lower the output from the Lumin when this is needed for your preamp. Now I'm still testing it, but I believe in my setup the preference is for the lower output. Okay, so I'm getting a bit carried away here, and I can tell you much more about the app itself. I'm not going to. Let's have a look at the machine itself. From the left to the right. All the way on the left there is a reset button, but you can also do this from the app. There are 2 USB inputs, no outputs, just inputs. There's a network connection, an HDMI out that probably nobody is using, but when the A1 came to market around 2014, HDMI was the only way to output DSD. You see, there it is again. DSD was always a problem. So this is not an I2² connection. And then there is a digital output, but only a BNC connector, not RCA. Now this is considered to be better than RCA, so that's I guess why they put it on there, but almost nobody uses it. And I put an adapter on it so I can use it with the digital cables that I already have. There's a grounding post for those who need it, and then there are the outputs. Unbalanced via RCA and fully balanced via XLR, and then there's the power input for the external power supply. Now let's have a look at the power supply. This also comes with a grounding connection, and then there's power in and power out, and that's basically it. But I love that it is an external power supply. And last but not least, build quality. This thing is literally built like a tank. It is machined from one block of aluminium. That's what makes it so seamless. That's what makes it so beautiful, I think. That's what makes it so beautiful. And this streamer weighs more than my Rega Mirror 3, and that's without the power supply. Just the streamer. This thing is heavy. Okay, now there is much more that I want to tell you about this streamer, but this video is long enough, so that will be for another video. Also, tomorrow I will place a sound sample on the channel, so make sure to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you know when that video drops. Now obviously I like this streamer, but here at the end of the video there is one thing that I do not like about this streamer, and that is the overhang to hide the cables. It looks beautiful, it works, it looks nice and tidy, but it is just impossible to get your hands in there, especially if you want to unlock an XLR cable. It's just impossible. That is the one thing that I do not like. Everything else, I love this thing. Anyways, I hope you liked this video and I will see you next week.